She knows what she wants tonight. Moves fast like a neon tide. Confidence in every line. She's got style to find.
The Package, Chapter 9. I told you this would happen. Nick Fury's voice, usually a low growl, boomed through the secure, heavily shielded chamber. He stood before a holographic table, its surface now dark and inert, much like the world outside. The chamber was deep beneath the earth, a contingency bunker known only to a select few, designed to weather even the most apocalyptic scenarios. It had, just barely, survived the Exodus pulse. He paced, his single eye blazing with fury. I warned you about Centipede. I warned you about their funding. I warned you about the director's obsession with Chitauri technology. You called me paranoid. You called me an alarmist. You said my methods were too extreme. Around the table, shrouded in deep shadow, sat the council. They were powerful figures, their faces obscured, their identities known only through their titles or a designated code name. Representatives from the World Security Council, the global shadow government that often pulled the strings behind the scenes. They were the ones who had authorized S.H.I.E.L.D.'s operations, funded its initiatives, and, more often than not, questioned Fury's increasingly aggressive stance against emerging threats. Director Fury, a calm, resonant voice echoed from the shadows, identified only as Overseer 1. Your warnings, while noted, often lacked the definitive proof required for global preemptive action. Our intelligence suggested Centipede was a regional threat, a terrorist cell, not a global destabilizer. A regional threat that just plunged the entire planet into a new dark age? Fury slammed his hand on the inert table. Proof? You wanted proof? Look outside. This is your damn proof. Every power grid, every communication network, every piece of vulnerable electronics, fried. We're blind, we're deaf, billions are without power, without communication, without the very systems that sustain modern life. The extent of the EMP's impact is unprecedented. We concede that. But S.H.I.E.L.D. intelligence gathering evidently failed to predict its scale or prevent its execution. Fury scoffed, a bitter, humorless sound. My agents were on the ground. They were at Site Gamma, trying to stop it. They even managed to send a burst transmission moments before the pulse. A full intel package from an NSA asset and a S.H.I.E.L.D. deep cover operative. Names, locations, Centipede's true objective, the Exodus Project. It all confirmed what I had been telling you for months. He paused, letting his words hang heavy in the air. But I have no idea if that transmission made it. Our main satellite link went down hard. My best agents, Romanoff, May, Morse, Daisy, plus 2 critical external assets, all potentially at ground zero or caught in the immediate aftermath. I'm operating on emergency generators and wishful thinking, trying to raise a signal, trying to find my people, trying to figure out what happens next in a world that just stopped turning. Director, Overseer 3 spoke, a more sympathetic tone entering the discussion. What is your assessment of Centipede's objective now? What is their next move in this new world? Fury turned, his single eye piercing the shadows where the council sat. Control. The director isn't interested in blowing things up. He's interested in rebuilding. His allies, Senator Albright, Ambassador Lin, Mr. Kendrick from Omnicorp, they're all players in a global power grab. They'll have shielded bunkers, hardened infrastructure, pre-positioned assets. They just cleared the board, and now they'll move to claim it. And your plan, Director? Overseer 1 pressed. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s capabilities have been severely compromised. My plan, Theory stated, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous growl, is to find my agents, to re-establish S.H.I.E.L.D. as a functional entity in this new analog world, to understand exactly what the director's endgame is, and then I'm going to stop him. No matter how many wires he's cut, no matter how dark he's made the world, Centipede still relies on people. And people can be found, and people can be stopped. He gestured to the dark holographic table. This isn't about advanced tech anymore. It's about boots on the ground, intelligence, and pure, old-fashioned grit. This is the world I was born into before all the digital bells and whistles. And S.H.I.E.L.D. will adapt. We always do. The council remained silent for a long moment. The gravity of Fury's words and the grim reality of the world outside settling upon them. "Proceed, Director Fury." Overseer 1 finally conceded, a note of weary resignation in his voice. "The World Security Council will provide what limited resources we can. Find your agents, find a way to stop this." Fury gave a curt nod. Gladly. He turned and strode out of the chamber, leaving the council in their shadowed silence, facing the unimaginable consequences of their earlier inaction. He had a world to save and a team to find. The playground was a tomb of silence, the emergency lighting casting long, dancing shadows that seemed to mock the recent technological marvels that now lay inert. Phil Coulson moved through his office, the only sound the soft scuff of his shoes on the carpet. His face was a mask of grim determination, but deep within, a flicker of desperate hope still burned. He stopped at a hidden panel behind a framed map of the world, his fingers working a subtle latch. The panel opened, revealing a secure compartment. Inside, nestled on a velvet lining, was a familiar, battered metal box. This wasn't just a collection of personal items. This was the toolbox, a direct, physical repository of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s most sensitive data, its deepest secrets, contingency plans for every imaginable scenario. A gift from Fury himself, known only to the two of them, its existence a testament to Fury's distrust of purely digital reliance. Coulson ran a hand over its cool, metallic surface. It felt inert, like everything else. But it was designed for this. It was hardened against EMPs, a Faraday cage within a Faraday cage, its internal components entirely analog or bio-encrypted. He pressed a sequence of hidden buttons, a combination known only to him and Fury. A faint, almost imperceptible hum emanated from within. Then a small, red indicator light flickered to life. It was dim, but it was there. The toolbox still worked. His breath hitched. This wasn't just data. This was S.H.I.E.L.D. Every contingency, every secure contact, every hidden asset, every piece of intelligence not immediately compromised by the EMP. It was their compass in a world suddenly without coordinates. He removed a small, ruggedized data stick from a hidden slot within the toolbox. It contained encrypted bursts of information, designed to be read by specific, hardened receivers. This was their lifeline. He paused before placing the toolbox back in its safe. "Davis, Fitz, Simmons." Coulson's voice, usually calm, was sharp with a new urgency. "Get in here, now." The call had gone out. Not a digital transmission, but a series of prearranged analog light signals. From the playground's tallest tower, powerful, battery-operated spotlights began to flash a specific Morse code pattern into the night sky, a distress signal, a rally point, a symbol of resistance. Below, Fitz and Simmons, with the desperate ingenuity of true scientists, had managed to power up an ancient shortwave radio, sending out a low-frequency, encrypted signal that hummed like a ghost in the vast static of the EMP-ravaged airwaves. Miles away, tearing through the abandoned highways and eerily silent towns on their dirt bikes, Sarah Walker and Lance Hunter spotted them, faint pinpricks of light, pulsing rhythmically against the inky blackness. "Is that—" Sarah began, her voice hoarse from the long ride, filled with a desperate, burgeoning hope. "Looks like a shield beacon to me, mate," Hunter confirmed, squinting into the distance. His face, streaked with dirt and fatigue, showed a rare glimmer of relief. "A very loud, very analog one. Looks like someone's still home." They pushed the bikes harder, the roar of the simple engines a defiant rumble in the dead world. The pulsing lights were their compass, their guiding star in the overwhelming darkness. The ride was arduous, a gauntlet of abandoned vehicles, bewildered civilians wandering aimlessly, and the constant unspoken threat of centipede patrols. But the beacon, however faint, spurred them on. Meanwhile, John Casey, battered but unbowed, had been navigating the chaotic, silent urban sprawl. His bicycle was long gone, abandoned after a brief skirmish. He was on foot, moving with the relentless pace of a man driven by purpose and fury. He saw the distant flares too, a series of white light pulses against the eastern horizon. His military training screamed rendezvous point. His instincts told him Sarah would be heading towards any sign of friendly forces. "Walker," he muttered to himself, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he ran. "You better be there." And from the vast, dark expanse of the wilderness, the four figures of Melinda May, Bobby Morse, Daisy Johnson, and Natasha Romanoff moved with the relentless efficiency of seasoned veterans. They had navigated fallen trees, empty roads, and the unnerving quiet of a world without power. They were a tight unit, their shared purpose a silent anchor. Then, through the inky blackness, they saw them. Faint, pulsing lights in the distance. Not a town. Too rhythmic, too specific. "That's the playground," Natasha confirmed, her voice low. "Emergency beacon. Coulson made it." Daisy felt a surge of relief, followed by a renewed sense of urgency. They were alive, they were together, and S.H.I.E.L.D. was still standing, a lone flicker of resistance in a world plunged into darkness. The forces of S.H.I.E.L.D., scattered by the EMP, were now being drawn back together, pulled by the faint analog signals of a world trying to reassert itself. The playground was their destination, their last bastion, in a world transformed by the director's cold ambition. The first streaks of dawn painted the sky in muted grays and purples as Sarah and Hunter finally reached the outer perimeter of the S.H.I.E.L.D. playground. The imposing structure, usually a beacon of light and activity, loomed silently, its windows dark eyes in the dawn. Only the rhythmic pulse of the emergency spotlights from the roof cut through the gloom. "Looks like they're running on generator power," Hunter observed, killing the dirt bike's engine. The silence was immediate and profound. "Good. Means they've got some juice left." As they approached the main gates, a small, heavily armed patrol emerged. These were not the usual tech-savvy S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. They carried older, mechanical weapons, their faces grim and alert. "Hold it right there," one agent called out, his rifle leveled. "Identify yourselves." "Lance Hunter, S.H.I.E.L.D., Hunter yelled, raising his hands but keeping his posture coiled. "And this is a very important asset with vital intel." Sarah stepped forward, her hands visible. "Agent Sarah Walker, CIA. We have critical information on Centipede's Exodus project." The agent's eyes widened. "CIA? Follow me. Coulson needs to hear this." Minutes later, they were ushered into the playground's tactical command center. It was dimly lit by emergency lanterns and the glow of a few hardened analog displays. Phil Coulson stood by a massive, old-fashioned paper map, his face etched with exhaustion, but his eyes burning with renewed purpose. Agent Davis was still hunched over the crackling ham radio, while Fitz and Simmons, looking like they hadn't slept in days, tinkered with salvaged equipment. "Coulson," Hunter stated, stepping forward. "This is Agent Sarah Walker. She's got intel that'll make your hair curl, mate. Global EMP was just the start." Coulson's gaze fixed on Sarah, then on Hunter. "Agent Walker, Agent Hunter, you made it. What did you find?" As Sarah began to rapidly summarize Site Gamma's true purpose and was debriefing about her 48 hours before the EMP, then the main entrance to the playground groaned open again. This time it was May, Bobby, Daisy, and Natasha. Their clothes were torn, their faces smudged with dirt, but their eyes were clear, their bearing unyielding. "Coulson," May said, her voice hoarse but steady. "Site Gamma. The core is contained, but the EMP, it worked. It was massive." A wave of stunned silence rippled through the command center. Coulson's eyes met Natasha's, then Daisy's, then May's. The pieces of the puzzle, fragmented and terrifying, were finally clicking into place. Sarah paused her briefing, her gaze sweeping over the new arrivals. She registered the dirt, the fatigue, but also the unmistakable aura of shared experience, of a battle fought and survived. She recognized Natasha, May, and Daisy from their reputations, and the connection was instantaneous. They had all been there, at ground zero, witness to the director's opening salvo. "We need to talk," Coulson said, his voice quiet but firm. "Everything, every detail. We need to put it all together. The world just went dark, and we're the only ones left with a light." The playground, a small beacon in a vast, silent world, had become the unlikely convergence point for S.H.I.E.L.'s scattered forces. The long night was over, but the true fight for humanity's future was just beginning. John Casey moved through the silent, broken world like a ghost. His combat boots, scuffed and worn, crunched on shattered glass and abandoned debris littering the streets. Every car was a silent monument to a bygone era, every house dark, every store shuttered. The air, usually thick with the distant hum of civilization, was now filled with the unsettling sounds of birdsong, wind, and the occasional desperate cry of a civilian, or the distant barking of dogs. Casey pushed a dead car off the road, grunting with effort. Bartosky. The kid was already fragile. Ellie, Awesome, that idiot Morgan. They were civilians, ill-equipped for this. He gripped his rifle tighter. Just get to the playground, get to Walker, then figure out how to dig the rest of them out of whatever hole this EMP had put them in. He was bruised, exhausted, and hungry, but a singular, unwavering focus propelled him. Sarah. And the playground. He'd follow the fading light signals through the night, a relentless march driven by pure grit. He encountered pockets of dazed, confused people, some huddled by small, dangerous fires, others simply wandering. He skirted them, his training screaming danger. Without power, without law, the worst of humanity would begin to surface. As dawn broke, painting the eastern sky in muted grays and bruised purples, Casey saw it. The silhouette of the S.H.I.E.L.D. playground, its few remaining emergency lights, a faint, pulsing beacon against the darkening world. A guttural sigh of relief escaped him, quickly swallowed by the oppressive silence. He approached the main gate cautiously, his senses on high alert. 2 S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, armed with older, mechanical assault rifles, stood guard. They looked as exhausted as he felt, but their posture was alert, professional. "Identify yourself," one barked, leveling his weapon. Casey raised his hands, displaying his NSA ID badge, a useless piece of plastic in this new world, but a symbol nonetheless. "Colonel John Casey, NSA. I'm with Agent Walker. Heard you had a party. The agent's eyes narrowed, then widened in recognition. Colonel, we got a burst transmission about you. You look like hell, sir. You should see the other guys, Casey grunted. He was ushered through the gate, the heavy steel groaning shut behind him, a small moment of security in a deeply insecure world. He was back in the fight.
She's got style to find.